By now, everyone knows what Aimbot is, and unfortunately, you probably know exactly what it feels like to be on the receiving end of it. But have you ever wondered how they actually work? Alright folks, before we hop into it, I wanted to remind you all that we now have a Face It clan here at theScore Esports. You can join for free, play with friends, climb the leaderboards, and maybe even get a match in with Dimitri. So if that sounds interesting to you, check the link in the description below. The cheating problem in online gaming only seems to be getting worse. On top of hackers seemingly multiplying by the minute in shooters, the cheats they're using are not only getting more complex, but outrageous.
Grilltado.
Não, infelizmente.
Olha isso.
Toma grilltado, ó.
Dá-lhe a bala da alma.
Now, more dedicated scripters will use things like anti-aim. You still see speed hacks every once in a while, and radar exploits are near unavoidable in battle royales. But aside from those, and many more I don't have time to mention, are the two OGs. Aimbot and walls. Walling refers to cheats that let you see players through walls, and for obvious reasons, knowing exactly where your enemies are at all times is, well, that's basically half the game. Now, Aimbot takes care of the other half, locking a player's crosshair onto enemies' heads, so usually all you have to do is click.
Finger throwing, man.
Ah, same.
Don't throw, guys!
But with the apparent increase in aimbotters in CS2, at least blatant ones, I've been wondering more and more how the cheats actually work. Call it morbid curiosity. So I once again reached out to my pal Koj at the anti-cheat police department, and he set me up with Katu, Burke, and Baldo. 3 chaps with extensive knowledge on this stuff. In almost all online games, everything that's in a server needs to be stored in the game's memory, and therefore your computer. This includes the location of every player at any given time. An aimbot script reads those coordinates. It then subtracts it from your own player's location to get a directional vector in that 3D space. The script then overrides your view angle, or crosshair placement, and boom, headshot. Last year, content creator Kaz did an extensive view into the trigonometry side of how all of that works, so if you're a nerd, go check his video out. Anyway, these are typically referred to as injected aimbots, and what they do is directly access the game's DLL file and modify it. These have become extremely common on the market, and usually when you pay for one of these services, you're getting access to a whole host of different cheats on top of just aimbot.
He smoked. No, he...
Blue, get on the head, get on the head.
Now, as I'm sure you've already picked up on, aimbot isn't always just an on or off type situation anymore. As these cheats get more advanced, so does the customization. Cheaters can now edit things like the percentage of shots that will hit the head and even implement an FOV slider, meaning how close your crosshair should be to a player before the aimbot kicks in and locks on. The purpose of these options is to better hide the fact that you're cheating. As I've said before, it's very common to come across blatant aimbots these days that will just have all their sliders on full blast. But for those who want to hide the fact that they're cheating, they can just slightly adjust their settings so it's less obvious. To be even less conspicuous, you can use trackers that work like aim assist on consoles, gently guiding your crosshairs to enemies that come on your screen. There's even something called a trigger bot that works the opposite. You do the aiming and it pulls the trigger at the most opportune placements. These are some of the most common cheats amongst closeted cheaters, since it requires some of the most amount of effort to actually pull off, therefore easier to hide. Now, when it comes to Valorant and other games that use enemy outlines, things get even more interesting. Instead of using enemy locations like most other aimbots I mentioned, these games can also use pixel analysis or pixel bots, which instead scan for the colored pixels in an enemy outline.
To get the least amount of false positives, like so you don't flick onto a wall or a tree or something, you would use purple outlines on the enemy, and then it will detect those purple pixels and it will see the position where they are on the screen, and it will send mouse inputs to your main PC to flick to the enemy head.
So yeah, in a nutshell, those are pretty much how aimbots work. The next question is, how did the devs fight against it? Well, unfortunately, it's a battle on 2 fronts, because as the group explained to me, there's actually 2 distinct ways you can cheat. The first and most common is internal software. Your aimwares and never loses, programs that you download directly onto your computer and run while you're playing. These cheats are almost always cheaper and easier to use, but with the downside being that they are easier to detect. Another problem is that to get access to these better internal cheats that are harder to detect, you actually need to get an invite, and Although I don't think it needs to be said, trusting and associating with the people that will give you one is probably not in your best interest.
The thing with GameSense itself, within invites, sometimes they'll do giveaways. Majority of the time, you have to be very careful who you get the invites from. Most of the time, I recommend people to just get them from a friend, because half of the time when you get it from a friend, you're not going to get your account completely banned or absolutely like scammed in the first place, because there are some people who will charge hundreds of dollars for these invites, and there are also some people who won't charge that much but will still scam you either way when it comes down to it. So it's a really shady part of the community, which is why a lot of people don't recommend to use the cheat whatsoever.
Now, the alternative to these internal programs are cheats that use a DMA, or direct memory access. A DMA is an external device that connects directly to your PCIe port, and as the name suggests, it can access a game's memory and modify it without actually having to touch your PC's main processor, which is how cheats are normally detected. Pair this with custom firmware and it will even better disguise what the DMA and cheats are doing on your computer, even tricking some kernel access anti-cheat systems. But when it comes to a game like Valorant with actual working anti-cheat, you would probably want to be even safer. And to do this, you would need a second PC. So instead of having everything run on just one computer, you download the cheats onto your second setup and stream it back to the main PC that has the DMA. If you want, you can even get what's called a fuser, which puts the cheat overlay back onto your main PC that's running the game, so you don't have to look at two monitors. Obviously, the catch here is that it can get pretty expensive. Even just going the single PC DMA route is more because you would need the device itself and the cheats. But to get that added protection, you would need a whole ass other computer, custom firmware, a fuser, added mouse hardware. The point is, it can be a lot.
First you need to buy a DMA that costs like $100, $128, and then you need to get a second PC, and then you need to get the cheats. And a lot of those cheats are private. I think most of them are private for Valorant because they don't want these cheats to get out there to get in the wrong hands, and then they can get detected. So they try to stay as private as possible, and the total cost would be around $1,000 to have like a safe cheating setup.
For that reason, although much harder to detect, DMAs just aren't that common and are only used amongst those who cheat like it's their fucking day job. So although it is still an issue, the main job for a game like CS2 is getting rid of these internal cheats. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of these types of programs out there that can range from $100 to $5 to completely free if you know the right people. And when a cheat gets exposed, another one is probably just gonna pop up and take its place. Hell, even cheats that do get detected will go away for a bit and come back even stronger. It truly is an uphill battle for all developers, and although kernel access is a good first step, it's not all that can be done. But I'm hoping that maybe, just maybe, a company that made $1 billion off us last year in cases can do something. Anything. Please.
Alright, okay, bye.
You wanna do Aimbot?
Come on, hit me, Matt. Hit me.
So Aimbots, eh?